and of course our fintech partners are also present. And we're very grateful for you to be here, right? Our world is evolving at such an astonishing pace, and the borders between finance and technology are completely obliterated. Not too long ago, when you think about banking or finance, there was a difference or a separation between what was one and what was the other. Those lines have been broken down. The bureaucracy and the red tape have been broken down. This wind of change that has swept through our sector has seen the birth of some of the biggest fintech players anywhere on the continent, right? It has seen the growth in our banking industry in the high 40% over the last 3 years, right? In this time, we have seen the fusion between what finance is and what technology is in a way that has been unprecedented, making Nigeria probably one of the leading markets in that space today. Now, how have we gotten here? Right? For us, the first thing is really the adoption of technology. Right? We have seen banks and service providers undergo complete digital transformation. Right? We have seen our customers move from what they understood as coming to the branch to do their transactions to now fully digital, and even now contactless remote payments. And we're getting more and more savvy customers who are adopting technology. We are seeing technologies like blockchain, artificial intelligence, machine learning, big data are no longer mere buzzwords, right? They are the essence of some of the products and services that we're delivering into our financial ecosystem. And these are bringing efficiencies and they're bringing innovation, right? That trend is really what drives what we want to do today at Interswitch TechConnect, right? We will be exploring what are those technology trends, what are those innovations, what are those drivers for change that we as Interswitch have been working on, either on our own or with our partners, and bringing that to you to share with us. As we delve into the technology conversations, it is imperative that we also look at how do we scale our OFIs and our fintech customers to scale using the digital economy and the digital capabilities that we've built to transcend the geographical limitations that exist. For us, however, scaling is not only about reach, right? For us, we believe that scaling is also ensuring that impact is both meaningful and sustainable, right? The challenge for us lies in striking the balance between growth and preserving the core values of our creed, both as an organization and as an industry. It revolves around using the technologies that we have. It revolves around empowering the individuals and the communities that we serve to break free from the clutches of poverty, to break free from the shackles that have prevented them from being able to do the kind of business and grow their businesses in the way that they have. This kind of scaling demands strategic thinking. It's not just about the money. It's about collaboration. It's about commitment to a social mission that defines the ecosystem that we're trying to create. But as we navigate these frontiers, especially around innovation, it's crucial to understand that advancement is not just about doing more, but doing better. We believe that in the conversations that we must have today, we must think about how do we protect our customers from fraudsters. We must think about how do we make sure that the experience that we're delivering to our customers is better. We must think about how do we ensure that the journeys that we put our customer through when they need to get support from us is also better. It's important that as we think about we find ourselves today at an intersection between opportunity, but also the prudent responsibility to make sure that whatever we do is ethical. We find ourselves recognizing that we have the power to set the tone for how this industry shapes itself as we go into the future. We find ourselves as a beacon in Nigeria that and because of that, we reflect that our performance is not only in terms of the figures on our balance sheet or in our P&L, but in the lives that we've transformed, in the businesses that we've nurtured, and in the communities that we've upheld. Together, we can build a future where what we do is not just a transaction, but a driving force for positive change. At Interswitch, we are committed to navigating the course of future trends in financial services sector. It's driven by our dedication to innovation, using digital payment technology to ease transacting. We are at the forefront of establishing a robust financial infrastructure, fostering strategic collaborations, adopting a customer-centric approach, and demonstrating the ability to adapt to the evolving needs of our industries. Right. Within this conference and for the next few hours, my hope and my charge is that we have those conversations that will allow us to look at what it is that we can do to not only use the innovation, adopt the technology, but also to build an infrastructure, a business, an economy, a society, right, that is allowing those communities and individuals and businesses that we serve to prosper. I want to end by thanking you all for honoring our invitation and for actively participating in our TechConnect 3.0. Together we can embrace the future of adapting, scaling, and advancing fintech as we continuously explore global trends in this industry. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, please let's put our hands together for Mr. Akim Lawal, MD Payment Processing and Switching, Interswitch Pure Pay, for that insightful keynote address. He did touch on the wonderful innovations you have been making in the digital payment technology space. Thank you for that. Just before we move on, I would like to acknowledge the presence of a few organizations that are here with us today. The list will be updated, so I'm not leaving it. Aircraft, Ethnos, Cybersecurity, News Central Television, Sovereign, First Bank of Nigeria, Jumia, Jubilee Life Mortgage Bank, Let She Go, EAP International, Casper Technologies, Heritage Bank, Access Bank, Global Bank, and of course Interswitch. Swiftly moving on, as our keynote speaker has formally opened this year's TechConnect 3.0 event with his keynote speech. And up next on the agenda is a first industry topic, industry-focused topic. In a landscape fraught with challenges, it's crucial to understand and address fraud and cybersecurity in Nigeria. And to enlighten us in this crucial subject, we have a gentleman. He's here to peel back the layers of complexity and present us with solutions that will safeguard the integrity of our financial ecosystem. I'm sure lots of you are wondering, who is this gentleman that would be speaking on the issue of cybersecurity? I'll just say a few words about him shortly. Yes, he's a value-driven business development manager with a record of success in improving business systems and applications. A seasoned engineer in the area of application implementation of over a decade of experience in banking, financial services, fintech, and information technology sectors, building products and also managing enterprise applications. Currently, he leads the strategy, execution, and delivery of digital technology products and platforms for fraud, cybersecurity, and bespoke solutions, working with cross-functional teams and strategic partners to meet revenue targets and deliver products and projects efficiently and effectively. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together as I welcome to the stage to enlighten us on this crucial subject, Chijioke Eze, the Business Development Manager at Interswitch Financial Services Businesses. Thank you very much. Please give Chijioke Eze a rousing round of applause.
Good morning, everyone, and good to have you in this event, and good to see the beautiful faces before me. All right, so I will be talking on my presentation regarding fraud risk management. Fraud risk management. We all understand that today cybercrime is an issue in so many organizations. So many organizations have lost revenues, they've lost their images, they've lost customers as a result of cybercrime. But then the question is, what do this organization needs to put in place to be able to mitigate against this monster that has crumbled so many firms? So in the next few minutes, I'll be talking about fraud risk management. And then by the time I bring this talk to a close, I'm going to introduce to us a number of products, a number of tested and trusted products that many of our customers that are plugged in today have so many positive words to say. All right, so cybercrime refers to criminal activities that happens on the internet. And so there's difference between cybercrime and cyber security. So we are talking about cyber security. We're talking about the steps you put in place, the controls you put in place to fight cyber fraud, to fight cyber crime. And these security are securities that we put in place to protect our computer systems, our network, our data, so that we're not exposed to cyber crime, to cyber fraud. Fraud risk management, all right, so it involves the identifying, involves the assessing, involves the monitoring, and then it involves the mitigation that we put in place as an organization against risk, okay? And it also involves the controls as well as the policies that as organization were put in place to fight this cyber frauds. I will go on to my, all right? So by the time we bring this to a close, we'll be talking about the fraud facts, common fraud in our industries today, and then we will be identifying some red flags in card transactions, in core banking transactions, and also we'll be looking at risk-based strategy for tackling fraud, and then relevant fraud regulations. All right, so in recent times, the payment landscape continued to change and to grow. And this growth has been fueled by financial innovations within the payment industry, as well as evolution from traditional banking. So as I progress in this talk, I'm going to try as much as possible to make this very engaging, all right? So I probably will be asking us a number of questions from here. All right, so over time, we've experienced growth in our payment industry. And so there was a time, of course, we still do that now. Everything regarding payment was cash-based. Yes, it still applies today, all right? But then we understand the kind of fraud that is associated to you experiencing payment transaction that is cash-based. Many times you find somebody who has a huge amount stored in his house, experiencing some robbery attack, experiencing some form of attacks. And then in the area of checks, of course we all know that some of the fraudulent activities that applies to checks. Sometimes you see people submitting due checks, all right? Due check just in the name of fraud. And then in the area of debit cards, you know, the period when we used to use the magnetic stripe card, where your details will be cloned. I know we had cases where customers' details are being cloned, card details are being cloned, and then all of a sudden you see transactions that are occurring very far from your location. Transaction occurring maybe in other country. Why? Because someone has hijacked your card details, someone has cloned your card, and then is using that card for transactions outside your original locations. All right? So we had issues where cards are being closed, and that gave rise to the chip cards we use today, just for security purpose, just to minimize the fraudulent activities that happens in clothing of our card details. And then in the era of mobile phones and tabs, as we progress in this talk, you will get to understand that fraudulent activities has skyrocketed in this era. So many of the fraudulent activities that happens takes place on the mobile, takes place on the internet. And that is why we are here to intimate us so that we put checks and balances. But now the question is, what sort of payments, innovation, these fraudsters are looking for, these fraudsters are waiting. Okay, we're going to hack that era. We're going to look at it. Akim talked about contactless and transaction. Okay, that's another form of innovation. But then it will surprise you that these fraudsters are not sleeping. It will surprise you that these fraudsters keep looking for a way where they can break into these innovations and exploit people. All right? So I move to the next slide. Please help me. Okay. All right. So we have the fraud facts here. Banking-related fraud takes place online. About 93% of the fraud happenings today, okay, takes place online. In August 25th, just August 2 months ago, major dailies in Nigeria released that Nigerian bank suffered a loss of about 5.76 billion naira just within Q2 alone. Q2 alone. While in Q1, a loss of 473 million happened amongst the Nigerian banks. So you see that these fraudsters are not sleeping, so it keeps increasing by the day. And that is why, as an organization, we need to be awakened. We need to ensure that we do not give them the leverage, we do not give them the opportunity by safeguarding ourselves. Safeguard your business, safeguard your transactions, safeguard the things you do. All right? Because if you fail to do that, they don't care. The fraudsters don't care. If you fail to do that, what would happen is that you probably would be gone out of business. You would lose your customers. You will lose the image as company you've been working for over the years. Your customers will lose confidence in you. There will be customers attrition, all right? So 93% banking-related fraud takes place online. Total fraud attempts made in 2022, out of which 14.3 billion was actually lost. 14.3 billion naira was actually lost in 2022. 101,000 total fraud counts happened. 101,000. They don't sleep. 12.2 billion fraud loss in first half of 2022. In first half of 2022, okay, that's supposed to be 2022. So these are some of the fraud facts. 58% of fraud loss for 2022 through mobile, web, and POS channels, totaling 8.3 billion. 37% of banks fell prey to some form of planned ransomware attack between 2021 and present. All right? And then 1.77 billion was lost amongst 4 Nigerian banks to fraudulent activities. All right? So it's very important. Fraud issue is it's something that needs to be taken very seriously. It's something that, as organization, we are not weak. Our internal controls are not weak. It's something that we need to sit tight on. It's something that we need to be awakened. Average time chargeback fraud can go undetected in 6 months. So the average time chargeback fraud can go undetected in 6 months. Many times we don't discover a chargeback fraud immediately it happens. All right? So the customer receives values and then he logs to say he didn't get any value. And you as the merchant, you try to, okay, want to listen to these customers by logging this chargeback, and then not knowing that such transaction was successful, all right? So we need to be very careful, and that is why as Interswitch, we're very much concerned about our stakeholders' businesses, and thereby we'll do everything necessary to intimate them and to make them know what is happening in the society today. So we're looking at the fraud that has happened in the various channels between the year 2021 and 2022. For mobile, in the year 2021, there was 42,821 fraud attempts. 42,821 in mobile alone, just in 2021. That's to tell you that these people don't sleep. While in 2022, 45,090. On the web, 48,885 in 2021 alone. While about 30,260 in 2022. So the count goes. The count goes. And then if you look at the actual loss that happened, for mobile alone, 4.8 billion naira was lost. 4.8 billion was lost in the year 2021. While 4.7 billion was lost to fraud in 2022. And then in web, 3.4 billion in 2021 and 1.6 billion in 2022. What about ATMs? The total amount that was lost to fraudulent activities through the ATM was 672 million naira. While in 2022, 3.5 billion was lost. The count keeps increasing. The revenue, the loss in value keeps increasing. And that is why we need to protect our environment, protect our organization against these fraudsters. The mobile channel is the most exploited channel by fraudsters in 2021 and 2022, with 42,821 and 45,090 reported fraud records, respectively. And with the exception of mobile and e-commerce, there has been a general decrease in fraud counts across other channels in 2022 when compared to the previous year. And so what these fraudsters do, they are becoming more greedy by the day. And so they are not carried away by the number of attempts they make. They just want to hit it big. Hit once and hit it big. All right? And that is why in the stats before us, then you can see that in 2022, okay, 47 billion was lost to fraud through the mobile channel. We're here to intimate us that our environment, your channels, needs to be protected. And what are some of the things that we need to do to ensure that we don't give them room? What are some of the things that we need to do to ensure that these things are really secured from these fraudsters so they don't have their way? As we progress in this presentation, I'll be showing us some of the steps we need to put in place. All right. We go to the next slide. Okay. All right, so we're going to be looking at the fraud figures by industry. So that tells you that fraudulent activities is not just limited to the financial space alone, banks alone. It happens across board, okay? Industrial manufacturing, financial services, energy, retail and consumer, government and public sector, the health industry, in technology, media, and telecommunication. It happens across board. And so you're not here saying, oh, this is my industry, and so we are protected. They won't look at us. No, they will, okay? So it happens across board. Cybercrime, about 32% of cybercrime affecting the industrial manufacturing, about 44% customer fraud within the financial space, 45%, okay, from procurement, within the procurement space, hitting the energy sector. And so you have these figures. And one of the constant occurrence of the fraud types, if you look at, you see a cybercrime. Under industrial manufacturing, 32% of cybercrime. Under financial services, 38% of cybercrime. Under energy, 29% of cybercrime. And then 27% and 36, 40, and 50. It goes on and it goes on. All right? So it tells you that cybercrime, and that is why many times you go online, you see adverts talking about cybersecurity, empowering people to get to know what cybersecurity is all about, to understand these different cybercrimes and cyber attacks that happens, and how you can mitigate against all these activities that happens online. How do we identify perpetrators of fraud? Many of the fraudulent activities that happen, the losses that we record today, that we hear today, all right, that happened as a result of true fraud, okay, happened or are being sponsored by external perpetrators. So about 43% of the people outside the organization, 43%. Someone who has a link in-house or someone who is a standalone outside, who looks at the loopholes of the system and looks at the weak controls that have been put in place, exploits it, okay, and then gets away with it. So according to statistic, 43% of the fraud that happens are triggered or are sponsored from the external environment. And don't forget, my source of this information is from PricewaterhouseCoopers, okay? So about 31% of the fraud that we record today that happens are internally generated. So the question is, how do we now start to strengthen internal controls to reduce this count? What do we do as an organization? All right, so we're going to see that in the course of this speech. And then 26% as a result of collusion between internal and external actors. An internal person or internal staff giving information to someone that is outside the organization. This is what you need to do. These are the details. And so recently I was just reading in the news of a lady who was being beaten by a mob. What happened? Someone had gone into the banking hall to withdraw, and then as she was going home, was being attacked by robbers. Although the robbers were caught, and then they revealed that there was an insider. So 26% of the fraud today happens between the internal and external factors. So there's someone in-house that gives information to the external actors. All right? So we move to the next slide. The next slide, okay? All right. So now the question is, what are the business impacts of fraud to your businesses? It has a massive impact. And like I said earlier, as a result of this, so many organizations have folded up. So many organizations have crumbled. And one of the impacts is what? Negative customer experience. A customer who experiences this, the impact of fraud, of maybe of fraudulent activities, goes out and then begins to tell other customers, this is what has happened. I don't trust this organization. I don't trust them. And, that is how the information spread. And then you get to lose customers. So negative customer experiences. And that is how the experiences keeps spreading. Liability for payment of fraud loss. That as an organization, you are paying for the loss that has happened as a result of fraud, what the organization did not use for its own benefits. That's one of the impacts of fraud. Regulatory sanctions, reputational damage. Reputational damage is something as an organization we need to ensure we protect. And because this is a reputation that as organization it's been built over the years, and you would not just want an activity that just happened. And the truth is that's why so many of the organizations that experiences fraud would prefer to lie low, keep the information, because they know that the moment it gets out to the public, what happens? It damages the reputation. Decline patronage, decline in income and profit, customer attrition. Customer begins to leave. Customer begins to change base. Erosion of public confidence. The public confidence is no more there. They don't trust your system anymore. They don't trust you to be in the best position of keeping their money. They want to look for some other firm, probably that have not recorded fraud, or maybe that have fraud incidences has not been made public, all right? So you have erosion of public confidence, possible loss of staff involved by implication, possible litigation, costs of prosecution and recovery, all right? So these are some of the business impacts of fraud. What are the common fraud in payments today? Identity fraud. Identity fraud. We all know about this. Processing fraud, chargeback fraud, cyber attacks. Someone stealing another person's identity. And then coming to say, I'm that person. And because he has the details and everything, he or she is able to go away with it. Identity fraud, friendly fraud, account takeover, SIM swap. These are some of the identity fraud types. And what about the processing fraud types? Card system frauds, bean attacks, configurations anomalies, system compromise. These are some of the processing fraud that happens within the payment space. Fraudulent chargeback claim from customer. I talked about this earlier. Customer who gets value, receives value, after a successful transaction comes and says, I didn't get value, and then locks that request. All right? So these are some of the fraud that happens. Cyber attacks. Somebody sends you an SMS. That's what we call smishing. Smishing. Somebody sends you an SMS. And in that SMS, there's a link there that says, click on this link to, what happens? You click on that link, it routes you to another page where vital and private data about you is requested for, okay? So phishing, there's also the phishing attack. The phishing attack and the vishing attack. So the vishing is the voice call. Somebody calls you and says, are you this? How did he get the information about you? Probably from your social, your social media page. Goes there, get the information about you, and then calls you. I'm sure some of us have experienced that before. And then calls you and says, are you this? You walked here, and then you said yes, and then, the yes keep coming, and then you feel that person knows you very well. And then the next thing is requesting for some vital information, all right? So these are some of the attacks that one can experience. Targeted ransom attack, page jacking. page jacking. Some of the sites you visit have been compromised. And before you know what is happening, you're being routed to a different page. All right? SQL injection. SQL injection talks about your database. Your database is being compromised. And then before you know what is happening, as you are from the front end performing your transaction is eating. Of course, they have access to the database, and so they know the information they want to retrieve or the information they want to alter. So these are some of the cyber attacks in payments sector. And what are the red flags we need to be aware of? We need to open our eyes, as someone will say, shine your eyes. All right? All right, so rush off peak transactions. So many a times, you are rounding off transaction for the day, and all of a sudden you just get some certain kind of transaction that you need to treat. You need to be very conscious of periods like that when those kind of transactions, they come in. Urgent request for quick overnight large payments and orders. Purchase of multiple high price transaction. And what about suspicious KYC information? Customer uses gibberish as email. Recently, someone was telling me of an experience. A customer who came into a certain organization, registered, and then, committed fraud. And in the process of trying to get details of the customer, they found out that the customer used, as the NIN, use certain number, and at the end you have like 6 zeros. So those kind of information should awaken you, should make you alert, and then you have to ensure that these informations are validated and then verified. Okay, usually large orders, sudden high amount of wallet funds, increased transaction on a first time card, purchase of multiple high price transactions. So these are some of the red flags within the payment space that we need to be conscious about. Okay, velocity of transaction, high value fund transfer exceeding the daily limits. Odd high value transaction. You get to see that a certain transaction happened at this period of the day, 2 a.m., 1 a.m., and then it happened, and then you see frequency of it, settings almost the same limits, almost the same amount. That should make you so you can be awakened to these red flags. And then we look at some of the red flags within the card space: failing transactions and being attacked, zone hopping, compromised card, all right, high velocity of transactions. So these are some of the red flags that, as an organization, we need to be wary of. We need to ensure that as they come, monitoring is in place, the policies are very strong, and then we're able to arrest this kind of red flag, zone open, all right? The moment you understand or you see that a customer, I know this customer would really not, has never done transaction from this zone before, from this location before, that is a red flag on its own and should make you ensure that you really go into monitoring and investigating what kind of transaction, if actually it is a legit transaction. Compromised card, we talked about this, where customers' transactions, card details are being collected and then cloned, or someone loses his card, and then before you know what is happening, someone takes hold of that card and is able to carry out some transactions online, all right? High velocity of transactions. Some card used to do multiple e-commerce transactions in short duration. That's a red flag on its own. That's a red flag. Multiple transactions within a very short duration. That's a red flag on its own. Multiple purchases back to back during non-holiday. So these are some of the red flags that we need to ensure that as soon as we spot them, you don't just go ahead to process them, all right? You ensure that you carry out the due check so as not to fall to some of these attacks. All right, so I will move to the next slide. And so in the area of core banking, what are some of the red flags that we need to also be on the watch? Internal fraud, usually inflows to staff accounts. Yes, inflows to staff account. And so you want to carry out what's actually happening. This amount into a staff account, then you carry out your check as internal controls, as internal control team, as a fraud desk team, all right? These are some of the things we need to check the moment we start noticing them. Inactive, dormant account, all of a sudden getting reactivated, and then transaction immediately starts happening. That's a red flag on its own, all right? Internal account GLs, account takeover. Customer is trying to, or someone is trying to log into a certain account, and then as a support staff or as someone who has an oversight over some of these accounts, and then you're wondering, multiple login failure, that should spur you into investigating what is happening. All right? So these are some of the red flags. Like I talked about, we've seen red flags that we need to be on the watch in the area of payments, in the area of cards, and then in the area of core banking. What are the strategies that we need to put in place for tackling this fraud? The key to staying ahead of fraud is to deploy a risk-based blend of targeted preventive, dictative, and remedial controls to lower the possibility and quicken hit detection and tighten any identified gaps. The key to staying ahead, the key to be in front of them, the key to always be ahead of them is to ensure that all these strategies are put in place. And what are they? Fraud governance, fraud risk assessment. In Interswitch, there's something we call the NINJIO, and then it's a fraud assessment that all staffs, it's mandatory for all staffs to take. And what does this do? It educates the staff of some of the recent kind of fraud that happens within the payment space. And so when in real life you get to see some of these operations, some of this fraud, you get to know that these are something that you need to avoid, all right? So you can subject your staff to what? To fraud risk assessment, user access management, fraud monitoring and detection. And that's where the solution I'll be talking about comes in. There has to be a trusted and a dependable solution that monitors activities, that monitors fraudulent activities within your payment space, reporting and analytics, fraud education. Fraud education. You educate your staff, you educate people that works with you of the occurrences, of the types. When these people comes, this is how it looks like. And occasionally in Interswitch, what happens, you see a mail's being sent to all the staff, all right? And then saying, there's going to be this payment that will be made. Click on this link. So many people are falling victim to that. Pray to that. So the idea is that you're trying to equip your staff with this knowledge, all right? So they don't fall prey when such kind of email comes in. They see this kind of emails from these fraudsters, and then they get to know that this is them. This is how they work, okay? And then you are securing your organization, cybersecurity, internal controls. What are your internal policies? What are your internal controls? How strong are they? How strong are they? You have a payment to authorize, and then it's just one person that would just review, do the imputing, review, and then authorize. That's a weak control. So you want to strengthen your internal control so that you don't fall prey to these fraudsters. Tackling various types of fraud, the preventive measures that we need to put in place against identity fraud and against processing fraud. All right? So I'll just take this quickly because of my time. So against identity fraud authentication services to ensure consumer protection and transaction integrity. Transaction limit definitions and configuration. Transaction limit definition and configuration. Dispute management and remediation. All right? You review existing fraud rules for cards, not present transactions. Your existing rules, you ensure that they are reviewed from time to time. Ensure fraud rules for high-risk transactions are set to decline, and alert mode. That's your solution within the house, within the organization, is able to notify you in the event of any of this dictation that happens. Processing fraud, global merchant KYC verification. Yes, it's a must and should be done. Transaction monitoring and dictation. All right? End of day settlement. So the list goes on. So these are some of the preventive measures you can put in place to fight this fraudsters. All right? So in summary, I will end by saying this: as financial technology innovation continues to rapidly boost seamless and quicker transactions, fraudulent activities are bound to rise. Fraudulent activities are bound to rise. If you remember when we started, we looked at the era of cash-based, and then we looked at the area of checks. And, as the innovation in the payment space keep evolving and keeps coming out day by day, these fraudsters and fraudulent activities keep rising. The key to tackle this threat is what? Is to a continuous deployment of risk strategies. Use data insights and ensure collaboration among all players of the payment ecosystem. And ensure collaboration among all players of the ecosystem. So in Interswitch, we take security we take it very seriously, because we run the Africa largest card scheme called VEV. And so security for us, it's something we don't joke with. Security for us is something we esteem so high. Of course, we know the VEV products within Nigeria alone. We control more than 50% of the market share, with acceptance in Africa, in Europe, in US. And you can't be having such or controlling such a product and don't take security very seriously. So we understand our customers' need. And that's why we're here, okay, to give us this knowledge, to ensure that your business is protected. The things you do, your organization is protected. And I will move next to talking about the first product I have, and that is ISAS platform. ISAS platform. ISAS, as the name implies, Interswitch Security as a Service, is an enterprise fraud and financial crime solution which monitors real-time customer data using machine learning invention, adaptive behavioral analytics, and automated deep behavioral networks. Okay? It empowers fraud and anti-money laundering to spot suspicious activities and prioritize alerts with explainable anomaly. All right, so the ISA solution, we have a number of our customers that are enjoying this or are plugged into this solution and, of course, using it to protect their transactions from end to end within the card space, merchant acquiring space, within your application, and then, of course, it has the anti-money laundering module, the payment fraud. It can help your organization to prevent payment fraud and gaming fraud. And these are some of the capabilities that it has. That's the ISAs. Yes, like I said, is Interswitch Security as a service. So as an organization, on one hand, you're protecting your devices, you're protecting your network, you're protecting your application, all right? You're protecting yourself because you would not want to lose the reputational of the impact fraud would cause. You will not want to lose your customers because when all these things falls in place, what happened? You're losing revenue. And so many businesses have crumbled, all right? So as an organization, on one hand, you're doing this to protect yourself. You're plugging into a solution like this. And then on the other hand, you're also equipping your customer. And that takes me to the next product, which is called payment control. What does this payment and how does this product works? Payment control is a fraud preventive solution that gives card holders, account customers, complete control over how they manage their money. How does it work? Your customers are empowered, your customers are equipped to be able to react the moment they cite some of these activities that happens. All right? So what would these customers do? And how does it work? A customer misplaces his card or maybe details of these customers are stolen, and then there's someone somewhere who is about to maybe commit fraud with this customer's details, or a customer gets to see that the activities is already ongoing. What does he do? He takes up his mobile phone or a mobile phone and goes to the mobile app and is able to stop every transaction that happened on his card or a card. Is able to stop every transaction that happens on the account. Yes, you can do that. So this solution, this product helps your customers to be able to do that. As a customer, I don't want my card to be used in certain location. Yes, on this solution, yes, you can do that. As a customer, yes, your customers can do that. All right? Your customer can restrict the currencies that he or she transacts on using this product. All right? Your customer as well can reduce the limit, transaction limit, daily transaction limit, monthly transaction limit on this solution. Someone takes your card and you're not sure if this person would actually do this exact amount of transaction, and before the person leaves, you've already done the checks. Not more than 10,000 should be withdrawn from that using that card. Yes, your customers can do this. And whenever fraudulent transaction happens on your customer's account or your customers using your customer card information, your customers can be able to address that at a go. We've had situations whereby, there are fraudulent activities and a customer receives the alert of certain transaction that he or she did not initiate. And he or she picks up the phone and is trying to reach the bank's customer care. And the phone rings forever. And sometimes in that mood, in that situation, the bank is playing you some music on the background. And then you are like, let these people pick this call, and nobody's responding, maybe because of the number of customers they have to attend to. Empowering your customer with this solution helps them to be able to address the first level support. All right? Okay, so we're going to look at some of the capabilities that this solution can give to your customers. Your customer can be able to allow or disallow web transaction. Go to the solution. I don't want web transaction. I can disable it right there on the solution without even calling the bank. Yes, on this solution, it is possible. Can disable allow ATM transaction, POS, select multiple countries for card usage. I don't want my transaction, my card to be used. I only want it to be used within this location. Yes, it is possible. Select currencies, set limits on account, set frequency, and set duration. What are some of the additional controls? Transaction types, yes. The amount, I talked about it. And then the merchant, and then the currency. So as an organization, you're equipping yourself, you're empowering yourself, you're safeguarding yourself against the cyber attacks, against the cyber criminals. On the other hand, you are also empowering your customers to be able to address some of these issues, all right, that comes up. All right, so this brings me to the end of this presentation, and I'm sure that some of us would have questions to ask. All right. Maybe I should wait for... Okay, so maybe I should just quickly go into the question time. All right, thank you very much.
You have to wait behind for Q&A. Thank you very much. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, please, let's put our hands together for Mr. Chijioke Eze. Thank you for that insightful and knowledgeable presentation. I'm sure a lot of the audience here have gained valuable knowledge on this very important topic. Very important indeed, because it could actually, you talked about reputation of the company, and it could actually make or mar business. So it's called TechConnect for a reason. We like to keep things interactive, and it will be nice to engage our members, our distinguished members of the audience. So Mr. Chijioke Eze is here to take your questions. If you have any questions with regards to his presentation, the ushers will go around with the microphones and give you the opportunity to. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Please, when you're asking a question, could you introduce yourself before you proceed? Thank you.
Yeah, so thank you, Mr. Chijioke. Blessed Ola Saint from Empower Africa Project. So, notice that you didn't say anything about the contactless approach. So I would like to know, because one, to what extent can we have security safety using, through contactless? And then, what is the possible way of selling this? Because of the idea of 633, the 666 idea, the religious idea, what's the possible way of selling this to people, especially at the grassroots? Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. If you recall, I talked about some of the strategies that has to be put in place. The risk strategy that has to be put in place to fight this monster, all right? And I also talked about the different innovation that has involved within the payment space over time, from cash-based down to the web transaction. So you're talking about the contactless, yes. So in that space, so what we do is to intimate our customers. We try as much as possible to educate them so your details are not released, okay, to anyhow someone calls and the person is promising you something very, very, captivating. And then, and then it's asking that you provide these details. So these are some of the things we tell organizations should inform our customers about. So details about your cards are not released, because when these details get to some of these fraudsters, they don't need your card. They don't need your physical card. They don't need it. They can go to any platform. They can go to the e-commerce site and then perform transactions, even without using your card. So one of the security measures is to ensure that your customers are educated, your customers are intimated, your customers are empowered with knowledge. Yes, and some of the financial organizations today are doing it, all right, where they send bulletins and they send SMS and messages to all their customers saying, do not release this.
Trail, because it's always difficult to actually trace cash transaction that because from a digital, it leads to cash, and once you investigate it to when cash has exchanged hands, it ends there. And still kind of give us an idea of who you are looking for. But as technology is advancing, people now use POS, which is even the most popular around Nigeria as of today. And as of today, you can withdraw up to any amount on the POS, which is a very serious.
She has a brand new sales organization which now boasts teams. Her vision extends beyond the corporate realm as she continues to spearhead organization. Furthermore, she places a strong emphasis on employee engagement and performance, underlying a commitment to driving success in every facet of her career. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together for Robinta Alui, Group Head. Stegra. Thank you. Please keep clapping until she takes a seat. Thank you. Thank you, DJ. Now, our next panelist is a tech and marketing communications expert with almost 2 decades of experience. His deep passion for strategy, technology, communications, and marketing has been demonstrated in the multiple strides attained across his career and mission within the tech and communications industry. Currently in his role as the Group Head Mobile Financial Service at Interswitch, he oversees a business portfolio spanning 14 African countries, providing mobile financial technology solutions directly to more than 20 million customers. With prior management experiences across 3 of Africa's leading technology players, at Cellulant Nigeria as Country Business and Marketing Officer, at Sidmac Technologies as Head of Marketing and Communication, and System Specs as Head of Marketing. Our panelist brings with him a wide array of experience in management, governance, business, and leadership. A versed public speaker and social commentator, he invests his free time towards mentoring the youth and sharing his knowledge at different fora, including trainings, TEDx sessions, conferences, seminars, and summits. An alumnus of the Senior Management Program at the Lagos Business School, he received his master's degree in strategic marketing from the Metropolitan School of Business and Management in the United Kingdom, and his first degree in political science from Ogun State University, now Olabisi Onabanjo University, Ago Iwoye. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together as I make welcome Olanrewaju Adelawa Basanta. It's the Group Head Mobile Financial Services at Interswitch. Our next panelist is the Group Head of Business Development at PurePay, a division of the Interswitch Group. It's a full-stack business development and products professional and enthusiast with over 17 years of experience in the spheres of banking, consulting, payment, and information technology, creating long-term value along the way. He is adept at taking ideas from concept all the way to revenue. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together for Babatunde Okufi, Group Head Business Development at Interswitch.
Low-key, all of them done they notice. I'm not joking, all my guys, them know me. Since '06, I've been writing this story. I know be you.
Our next panelist is a Senior Vice President at Flutterwave and leads the organization's offline business unit that covers both agency banking and retail merchant payments. Before this, he was the Nigerian engineering and product lead at OPay Nigeria and worked as part of a team based out of Lagos and Beijing and initially Sweden. He's an information technology professional specialized in developing, implementing, and managing core electronic and mobile payment services for over 18 years in the Nigerian market, with a personal drive for achieving true financial inclusion. As Vice President, he also led OPay's branchless banking business that has spurned hundreds of thousands of POS agents across the country and can be rightly said to be a market leader. He's experienced in variety of software and technology-related implementations, including e-learning, traffic management, fund transfers, mobile applications, online assessment systems, and capital importation. He led the initial design and implementation of the electronic certificate of capital importation for the Central Bank of Nigeria and the FMDA. He has led or participated in several national-scale tax automation software projects for FIRS and JTB. He holds a postgraduate in artificial intelligence and machine learning, having studied computer science at undergraduate level. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together as I welcome Dotun Adekunle, the Senior Vice President, Agency Banking and Retail Merchant Payments at Flutterwave.
No deserve this kind loving, the loving way you show me. Private lounging on party with expensive room service. No one make me do like this. Girl, I got you, no worries, no worries. They do me wow, wow. Scatter my internal, craving on sal out. Killing me kitana, check I love is out. Obsession if you la, every no desire out.
Thank you. Now for our last member of the panel, he will be standing in for Folashade B. Femi Lawal, who regrettably can't be here today. His name is our panelist. He is the head of personal banking in First Bank of Nigeria Limited. He has a banking experience that spans over 21 years. He has worked in various leadership capacities and services, retail, commercial, and public sector banking in First Bank, Bank PHB, now Keystone Bank, and GT Bank. Before rejoining First Bank in 2012, panelists, before rejoining First Bank in 2012, Now, distinguished panelist holds a Bachelor of Science degree in chemistry from the University of Nigeria and a postgraduate diploma in banking and finance and a Master of Science degree in economics. It was a cohort of the prestigious First Bank Senior Management Development Program. He is also a Korn Ferry Hay Group Certified Job Evaluator, a DDI Certified Facilitator, and a Certified Retail Banker. In addition, he is a Fellow of the Institute of Credit Administration, a Fellow of the Certified Institute of Financial Control of Nigeria, CIFN, an Associate of the Nigerian Institute of Management, and also Chartered Senior Member of the Chartered Institute of Bankers of Nigeria. He has also completed certified courses in leadership and business analytics at the Harvard Business School. In the last 5+ years, him and his team are leading the Nigerian banking industry in digital lending, building and launching best-in-class digital lending platforms, and disbursing billions in consumer-type loans. They are innovative consumer lending in First Bank with industry record disbursement value of over 8 trillion naira. He has also worked on bespoke client acquisition and retention channels and strategies. He has done extensive work in customer service, customer experience, and customer value chain management. He's attended and presented several papers in several workshops and seminars on financial inclusion services, including credit penetration and gender banking propositions. He spends his leisure time as a writer, playing lawn tennis, and in coaching and mentoring. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together for Mr. Ikemefuna Onwachukwu. Is the head of personal banking and First Bank of Nigeria Limited. Please, you could do better. Give him a rousing round of applause. Thank you. Thank you very much. And now to the moment we've all been waiting for, the panel session on advancing cross-border payments within the African continent, opportunities for financial services sector. You did hear me read the profile of this distinguished panelist. I mean, if you do sum up the experience, their years of experience, we would be totaling up to 150 years, and you know that's very valuable experience. So sit back, relax, and enjoy this session. Now I'd like to start with Mr. Onwachukwu. How can First Bank balance the adoption of cutting-edge digital payment solutions with the need to ensure financial security and compliance, particularly in the context of cross-border transactions within Africa?
Thank you very much, and good afternoon, participants and delegates. So, our pleasure to be here as a First Bank. Just to see that, to lay the background, your bank, First Bank, has been in this business for 130 years. That is sometimes, and if you consider the fact that the First Bank haven't been here for that long, is still as dynamic as we are still embracing technology as we are. That says a lot about who we are as a First Bank. So we are actually leading the industry when it comes to technological advancement. So reading my profile, you see what we've done again, let me correct that. I said in the last 2 years, we've done a disbursal of over 0.8 trillion in digital loans. I mean, and we know that that is part of the way that will put monies in the hands of people, and these people need to spend this money. So how do they actually transfer the money from one point to the other? In Africa, we know that our currencies are very volatile. We can't predict. All of us are witnesses to what is happening to the Naira today. If you look back just 3 months ago, you see a Naira hovering around 750. As of yesterday, Naira trading for 1,040 Naira for $1. And that applies across board to all the currencies in Africa. Because of the volatility in terms of the currencies, it's very difficult for you to actually consummate cross-border payment, because you cannot predict what the CD will be tomorrow. Like the man in Ghana will also find it difficult predicting what Naira will exchange for the dollar tomorrow. Let me also say that because of that, our infrastructure, which is fragmented in nature. So if you go to Ghana, they have a different set of infrastructure. You come to Nigeria, we have a different set of infrastructure. And because these infrastructures cannot interoperate, the cost of transfers across border is very expensive. So in a first bank, what we are looking at is how do we leverage blockchain? Because blockchain is actually the way to go. If you want to implement cross-border payments and make it seamless, and make it fast, and make it cheap, then the way to go is to leverage blockchain. And that is what we are exploring as we speak.
Sorry to interrupt you, Mr. Wachuku. You mentioned blockchain like it's the go-to solution for all problems. Would blockchain also address the issue of currency volatility and this changes in exchange rates? So you've not told us how you overcome that problem.
Okay, that's fine. So blockchain is the enabler in terms of technology. But when we talk about currency fluctuation, currency instability, then we are looking at blockchain on the one hand, making the process, the transfer, cross-border transfer fast, means that instead of you in Ghana receiving my transfer in 24 hours or 48 hours, you receive it on the fly. What the exchange rate will be. But that said, we also think that for Africa to actually work in terms of cross-border payment, we should begin to look at what AFTA is trying to do. How do we harmonize our payment system? How do we get the infrastructure in the different geographies to talk to themselves? How do we begin to leverage what, for instance, Quick Teller business is doing, where you unify payments across channels? So those are the things we are looking at. The problem of currency volatility will be there. We'll sort that out with the treasury guys. But when you have a functional technology that can help you make transfers at the point of initiation, then it becomes easier for you to make a forecast of what the currency exchange will likely be by the time you receive the transfer at the other end.
Thank you, Mr. Wachuku. I would like to bring Dr. Adekunle into the conversation. Senior Vice President, Agency Banking and Retail Merchant at Flutterwave. Mr. Adekunle, as a fintech leader, could you provide insight into how Flutterwave manages the complexities of cross-border payments, including regulatory compliance, currency conversion, which seems to be a common theme, and fraud prevention, while ensuring a seamless customer service experience?
All right, thank you very much. I think
mobile financial services to cater to the unique needs of various African markets in the context of cross-border payments.
Large cattle market, they're coming to purchase with local currency, for instance. They're not going to go and buy USD. What am I saying there is that there's a lot of informal trade. The informal trade that happens across is currently larger than formal than what we capture formally. So that's one of the things that we look at, that where are those flows today, right? And that kind of informs us, what, markets to go into, and what type of solutions to put in place for those markets. We also obviously, we're not an entity, we can't do everything by ourselves. We also work very closely with our partners. So it's an entire ecosystem. So we work with commercial banks, we work with fintechs, we work with MFBs and, all, FIs essentially. So it's an entire ecosystem. And, working together with our partners, we sort of suss out where the flows are, where the economic value is, and, try to put in the right type of rails to facilitate all of that.
So there's a lot of collaboration involved in partnerships.
Of course, no one can, Africa is large and Africa is complex and nuanced, right? So, what is a cross-border transaction or payment? Since, we're talking about cross-border, it's essentially the funds transfer. The only difference, so, a funds transfer is I take up my phone and I can send money to you, right? But if you reside in a different country, it suddenly becomes cross-border because you're crossing jurisdictions with different rules, right? A different central bank governing how things work, right? So all of that nuance has to be taken, into consideration in what you design and what you roll out. So no one entity can do it alone. You've got industry participants like us, exactly, right? And we're all working together. On the regulatory side, obviously working closely with regulators and entities like AFTA, the Secretariat, banks, people in the financial service industry, and the regulators. All of us have to sort of come together to solve for it. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Babatunde. Just one last question before I move to Mr. Ikemefuna. You mentioned AFTA, and a lot of people have mentioned AFTA in the course of their presentation and here today. AFTA is the Africa Continental Free Trade Area Agreement. It's meant to revolutionize, businesses and free movement of people and services. Where, a lot of people, ordinary citizens of Africa, are yet to see its effect. How much of a game changer is it, and how helpful is this sector? I believe it's in Accra, if I'm not mistaken, in stimulating businesses and connections across the continent.
It's massive. The truth is, the agreement is ratified, I think, by every African country except one. I think that's probably Eswatini. But I'm not certain. Ratified, different, from being signed, but literally, the whole continent is sort of come together, and it's massive. If you look at the data, and I've sort of referenced the EU as an example in terms of creating one economic bloc, breaking down the barriers to trade, right? Because red tape, one example is maybe looking at the UK leaving the EU, and all the red tape is introduced in trade with them. So breaking down those barriers, having one set of rules is massive. And the African Free Trade, the African Continental Free Trade Agreement, will be massive in sort of fixing and breaking down those barriers and making things a whole lot more seamless. Now you're asking about impact. It's been a long journey. It's been a long journey getting here, but I believe over the the next couple of years we will start to see the benefits. They are beginning to pull the private sector. Because, they're just a secretariat and it's just a framework, but they're beginning to pull the private sector and operators like us, people who will make things happen in. So I'm sure we'll start to see, sort of the benefits. And we'll start to trade a lot more with each other. Today, trade within the continent is roughly at about 17%. It's the lowest across the globe. I think the next lowest is maybe in the 30s. We don't trade enough with each other. We trade more externally. So those kind of things will really help fix the cross-border that's going on. And we talk about volatility. There's a question around currency volatility. Our currencies are volatile against external currencies. They're volatile against currencies like USD. The amount of reserve that you have, how much external trade you're doing is what defines that, yes. But there's nothing saying that we can't trade, Naira to C. Nothing saying we can't trade, to any other currency on the continent. Yes, economies would always, go up and down, but that will greatly help hedge against a lot of the volatility in currencies, right? Because you're triangulating against a currency like the USD. And if your USD reserve is low, obviously, the currency will fail against that.
Thank you very much, Babatunde. Now, Mr. Nwachukwu, your second question. In the context of cross-border payments, what specific role do you see traditional banking infrastructure, including cards and messaging systems, playing in the coming years, and how is First Bank adapting to this ever-evolving landscape?
Hello? Okay, thank you very much once again. So, what role First Bank will play? Traditional banks will say. So, we've been here for a while, so I would say that the traditional bank is supposed to lay the foundation, right? Because again, you look at what we have a lot of latency in terms of infrastructure, but we have the resources in terms of customer base. So where the money is where the traditional banks sit. But what else will help is partnership, collaboration, and then ecosystem play. If you fuse these three together, and then when I talk about partnership, I'm looking at the traditional banks like the First Bank partnering an Interswitch, or partnering other platform providers out there who are providing, as I said before, blockchain services and leveraging that to facilitate cross-border payment. Another role will play, again, because many of the big five banks in Africa have presence in other jurisprudence across Africa and even in the larger world. So that, again, provides an advantage in terms of reach. So because we already exist in terms of network across the African continent. So the partners that will on board will leverage our presence in those locations to facilitate cross-border. I love the idea about what AFTA was supposed to do for Africa, or is supposed to do. I use was intentionally because when it was launched, there was a lot of enthusiasm in the market because we expected that things will kickstart and start rolling. Have we seen things work at that pace? I would say no. Can we do better? I would say absolutely yes. Because what AFTA is supposed to do is to help Africa leverage a whole instead of a soul. So soul, I mean S-O-L-E, because when you fragment African countries, the economic power that we can wield as individual countries is infinitesimal compared to when you fuse us together as a giant continent and have us leverage our economies. If we can integrate as a whole, leverage our economies to facilitate trade between ourselves and trade with the outside world. That is what we expect AFTA to do. And from the get-go when it was launched, a First Bank was right there in Accra, and we got into it, we were ready to play along. We are still, but I just would like to see a situation where we become more efficient when it comes to implementation of very beautiful ideas in Africa. So we have this mentality where we have fine policies, good policies that are supposed to drive, first of all, trade, and then payment. But when it comes to implementation, it looks like every country is just looking for its own comparative advantage. Ghana is looking at what will Nigeria again ahead of.
What's in it for me? Yeah.
Exactly. So that's been the problem. But as banks and as fintechs, Interswitch, and other fintechs who are platform providers, we can always work collaboratively to facilitate both trade and payment across the entire value chain and ecosystem in Africa. That's what we want to see.
Thank you very much for that fine answer, Mr. Nwachukwu. Now, Mr. Dr. Adekunle, in your opinion, what are the main obstacles to financial inclusivity in Africa, and how does Flutterwave plan to overcome them in the context of cross-border transactions?
All right, thank you, yes, again. I mean, there are several challenges that have not allowed financial inclusion to deepen to the levels that we all expected or anticipated. Almost every few years, there's always a vision, 2010, 2020, 2030, where we keep saying that it's going to get better, everybody's going to be included. But we have not seen, though we have seen progression, we have not seen things getting to that point where we are truly satisfied that people are truly financially included. And several things are responsible for that. I think one of the biggest things is the payment infrastructure, which is further affected by the communication infrastructure in Africa. It's not at the same pace, at the same point where you have it in the rest of Africa and the rest of the world. And so we have had to adapt to bring out solutions or innovations that will leverage what Africans use, where Africans are, to be able to give the solutions that will address our problems. That's something that is important to do. With the growing mobile penetration in Africa and smartphone penetration as well, we're seeing things get better and better. But I think Tunde was talking, I mentioned two things that we're doing. In terms of pushing things in Nigeria, we're looking at terminals that we are pushing out to as many merchants as possible, all across Nigeria at the moment, and also eventually across Africa, that are cheap enough, small enough, that can accept NFC, that can accept, which is a remittance product. Today, it's across several corridors, mostly from outside Africa in, and then also in some corridors within Africa already that allows you to have instant payment, instant value, instant remittance at the top, at your fingertips. These are some of the things. The problem is large. The continent is big. There's still so much to do across the whole divide.
Are you hopeful? Are you optimistic?
We're very optimistic. The fact that we've seen these products leap very fast shows that the demand is there. People are looking for answers, right? And the more the fintechs and the banks and the industry comes together to provide these answers, people will adopt them.
Thank you, Mr. Adekunle. Now, Robinta, when Babatunde was given his initial response to my question, he did mention collaboration a lot in terms of Interswitch's plans to expand. Now, Robinta, could you elaborate on any strategic partnerships, collaborations that Interswitch is currently engaged in to enhance the efficiency of cross-border transactions within Africa?
Hello? Yes, we have a couple of partnerships we're running to facilitate that. I'd mentioned the partnership on pipe chain with PAPS. Basically, that would fast track and sort of remove the uncertainty of currency violations, being able to trade efficiently. And we used blockchain, right, as that point or system that provides transparency and one source of truth, so that you can have faster interactions, effective trading, via one consolidated platform. But beyond that, we also have strong partnerships around our banking infrastructure, enabling open banking to ensure that we allow microfinance, fintechs, rural banks, SACCOs, have APIs that allow them innovate on the fly. Innovate via mobile, innovate via wallets, and provide that interoperability that allows seamless transactioning across Africa. So yes, we have a lineup of partnering, and we'll continue to partner as required to ensure that we provide that thought leadership, we provide that platform and infrastructure or rail that allows we like to say, brings back that light to Africa, where transaction is at the heart of everything that we do.
Great, thank you very much, Robinta. Now, Olarewaju, what measures and technologies is Interswitch implementing to mitigate risks associated with mobile-based cross-border transactions, such as security, privacy, and fraud? We did listen to Eze's presentation on fraud earlier. You know how important that aspect is.
Yeah. Okay. I think the best way to respond to that is to say that there are quite a couple of things. When the conversation started, we started talking about some of the barriers on the continent. One of it was the volatility of different currencies, the size of the continent, I mean the numbers of our people, there are about 52 countries with different sovereign delineations. And so for us at Interswitch, I mean, just to maybe add some comment to Robinta's submission and then make an attempt, the real strategic positioning of Interswitch is that we have cross-border collaboration across the continent. And so one of the things you'll find Interswitch do is that in virtually every financial institution like a bank, or maybe the switching infrastructure within that country. And so what it allows us to do is to pull weight together to be able to deliver first provenance, for you to be able to know what is going on, because we're integrated in those markets. You want to say something?
They also help in helping to mitigate problems and risk when they come.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's where I was going to say, because in those markets where we are operating, we collaborate with banks and switching companies, if I could call them like that, it allows us first to be able to ascertain provenance, and that's the first. But beyond provenance, and in addition to some of the thoughts that was shared by the gentleman from First Bank, some of the thoughts you will find is that in the data space, we're grateful that there's a policy framework, which is NDPR for Nigeria. Of course, it started in 2018 with GDPR. There's a framework for data privacy that Interswitch as an organization tries to abide with, but not just on the data privacy side. One of the thoughts that was shared earlier was on fraud. Besides the fact that we are right at the heart of payment across the continent, one of the things that we do on myself and Robin's side is that we resell banking technology that allows you to be able to provide fraud-free services to your consumers. And so what Interswitch does is that beside the fact that we sell fraud technologies, we're able to layer additional solutions that ensures that the benefit or the promise of those fraud solutions are delivered to banks and users. But beside this is that we're not just a channels company. What you'll find with a few other fintechs is that they are providing channels in different countries, and that is great. For us, because of our age-long relationships with the banks, you will find that over time, not only are we providing exciting channels that compete with others, we're able to provide the infrastructure, the diligence, the collaboration that supports not just protection against fraud and cybersecurity, but also things like data privacy and the likes. So, I mean, took a few others do the same. It allows us to converge not just technology, partners, and also policies in a way that we bring some of the learning from other markets into other markets to be able to provide services that are competitive all across the continent.
Now, Larry, quickly, before I move to Babatunde, I'm going to ask a layman's question here. You talk about collaborations and working with other businesses. Does that not eat into your profit margin? And are you not developing capacity enough to be able to do some of these things that what's the word? You give other people?
Okay, thank you for calling me Larry. I was going to beg you to call me Larry and not the full one. There's an ancient Chinese proverb that I think exemplifies switch play. That proverb says, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go with others. The truth is, one of the things that you would have noticed about Interswitch is that we play the long game, right? And so it is very likely that as you are harvesting partners, that you are sharing some of your revenues with them. And so in the short run, you are maybe losing a penny here, a kobo there. But long term, what you'll find is that people feel more committed to a journey when they know that their skin is in that game. So you're not just telling them do this and do that. You're telling them that together we can win. And so if you want to be, not just in the Nigerian market, but across the continent, if you want to be in the market for longer, it is inevitable that you have to do it with partners. And if you think that you want to eat the pie alone, like they say, chop alone.
Thank you very much, Larry. Very brilliant response. Now, Babatunde, what strategies, or do you want me to lose the Baba? Because I was calling Larry or Larry Waju, and he wasn't comfortable with that, so I decided to shorten it to Larry. I'll stick with Babatunde. What strategies or initiatives is Interswitch leading to encourage collaboration and interoperability among various financial institutions, fintechs, and mobile payment providers to achieve a more integrated cross-border payment landscape in Africa?
Thank you for that question. So I'd like to speak more on what we've actually done and implemented as opposed to general. Time. So yes, you can describe it as a strategy because it's an ecosystem involving many different participants. So obviously ourselves, fintech partners, financial institutions, that's banks, bring them all together into an ecosystem that we call pipe chain. Quite simply, it is like the age-old halal money movement, hawala money movement, principles. It still uses those principles, but where we've modernized it for, and we've improved it for a modern era, and we've digitized it essentially using technologies like the blockchain separate from crypto, and having many different people plug into that, either if you're a financial institution, plugging in and participating either as a gateway, so a way to get funds in and out of the ecosystem across jurisdictions, so you can be a bank that spans many different countries. You could be a business that has operations across the continent as well, so therefore you have currency needs in different countries. You hold financial positions in different countries. You can participate on the platform as a liquidity provider. A bank can also provide the same role, because obviously you need liquidity to be able to facilitate the transfer of value from one country to the other. And obviously fintechs as well, acting as PTSBs, which is you can then PSSBs, which is you can then design your cross-border proposition, on top of what it is, the infrastructure, the rails that, we have designed, right? And then through either your mobile app or some other channel, you're able to build a proposition to, if it's a remittance proposition across continents, which is person to person, or facilitating the payments of e-commerce across jurisdictions. So you're in Nigeria and you've built a solution that allows people pay a supplier in Kenya, or you want to order goods and services online in Ghana. You can sort of simplify that. So that's really what it is that we've done. We've built this ecosystem using modern technology, working with partners with a regional or continental spread, but not just those. Even if it's just presence in one country, but that's really what we've done. We've built an ecosystem that multiple participants can plug in, where they are and leverage it. That's what we've done.
And I'm sure there's still more partnerships in the pipeline as we speak. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely, of course. And it's an ecosystem like I've described, and ecosystems continue to grow. And our ultimate goal is that it becomes a marketplace on its own, and a marketplace of African currencies with less dependency on large, global currencies like the USD, that we can bring down the cost of, funds transfer or cross-border transactions, because today it's roughly at about I think 7% of the value that you're sending. So a lot of that is tied into the inefficient way in which we send, money from country to country. If I want to send money to Ghana today, it's very likely going to flow out of the continent to flow back in. That's inefficient, that's expensive, right? If we can save that, then, we can spend that money on the continent as well, right? So there's quite a bit to do.
It's a win-win. Thank you, Babatunde. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, hope you're having a great time. Like I said earlier, this is interactive, and I also like to acknowledge those that are joining via web. This session is currently streaming on online. I understand it's being broadcast on LinkedIn's Interswitch page. We follow you. We acknowledge your presence. You can always ask questions when we get to the Q&A session. So I'm just going to do a final round of questions, and I'll come to you. I'm sure I won't be able to cover all the questions in this world. So I'm sure you've been taking notes, and a number of you will probably have questions for our distinguished panelists. Now, Mr. Onwachuku, my final question to you on this round is, what strategies or innovations is First Bank exploring to address the challenges of interoperability? That word could be a mouthful sometimes, and standardization in cross-border payments to create a seamless experience for customers across various African countries.
Thank you once again. I don't know if I could hear. Okay, yeah, okay, fine. So, thank you once again. So let me lay a bit of a background, just to emphasize what First Bank has done from the get-go when it comes to facilitating cross-border payments. I am not sure any one of us in the room here or any member of a family have not received either Western Union or MoneyGram through First Bank. That shows that from day one, we understood clearly how cross-border payment could facilitate trade. So we onboarded those partnerships to drive that. And because innovation is at the heart of what we do, in fact, one of our core values as a we are innovating around that money transfer scheme. Today, we implemented what we call the first global money transfer. What that does for you, it helps you receive money across geographies. That's number one. There are 4 other things that we are doing that I'm going to. Mobile wallet will become in the financial ecosystem. If, in fact, a research says that between now and 2025, we expect that about 70% of all payments are going to go through mobile wallets. And to also facilitate that, we have entered into very strong, profitable partnerships with the big telcos. Talking about the ones, the MTN, the Airtel. So we are working with these telcos across different African countries where we are present and even where we're not present. What we intend to do is to drive the adoption of mobile wallets as a vehicle to facilitate cross-border payment. And that is what they've done in Kenya. I'm sure all of us here know about M-Pesa by Safaricom. So M-Pesa has over 30 million customers onboarded in it, and it is the most dominant payment system in Kenya, even over PayPal, which is tagging along at second. So PayPal themselves are using digital wallets, whereas M-Pesa uses mobile wallet. So for us, it's a double-edged play. We are innovating mobile wallet. We will also innovate around digital wallets. What we intend to do is to present you with the option to make payments across the border at any time, irrespective of the method you choose to pay. So another thing that we did, even before now, was to be the pioneer for multi-currency card. So we have a card that enables you, for instance, to spend in naira if you're in Nigeria. You spend in dollars if you're in the US. You spend in pound sterling if you are in UK. So that is also what we've done to now provide us a platform to ride and drive the partnership that I spoke about. We are also onboarding fintechs across the geographies where we operate. Another thing that we are doing is that we are building an API gateway as a bank. So the API gateway enables our partners to connect to us seamlessly. So you don't need to sit down again and begin to talk about implementation, building of APIs, or building of interconnectivity. So we already have an API gateway that facilitates the interoperability you are talking about. So I would say we are more ready than the market is as we speak to facilitate cross-border payment.
I love the confidence, and I saw you smiling when I asked you that question. Your opportunity to sell the fantastic work and also share with us that First Bank is doing. Thank you very much for that, Mr. Nwachukwu. Now, Mr. Dr. Adekunle, my final question to you is, could you share, you also get your opportunity to talk about the wonderful, innovative things you're doing at Flutterwave. Could you share examples of innovative approaches that Flutterwave is taking to promote cross-border payments for small and medium-sized enterprises and individuals potentially bypassing traditional banking services?
All right, thank you. Our objective has always been that we want to make Africa to remain or to be a country. And so we have developed a multi-currency Flutterwave account that allows small businesses, not just enterprises, but small businesses to be able to receive payments from in whatever current. Powered as many SMEs this year alone, over 50,000 businesses across Africa have been empowered with payment terminals so that they can use that to accept payments. Additionally, there are two products which I mentioned. One I've mentioned before, one is Send, which allows payments to go cross-border across several corridors. Not all corridors are covered. By a corridor, I mean there's a Kenya-Nigerian corridor, there's a Ghana-Nigerian corridor, there's a UK-Nigeria corridor, there's a UK-Egypt corridor. We don't have all corridors covered today, but several of the most important corridors are already covered, and you can send payments or send funds real time, and it can hit the account of the other person real time. And because of the uniqueness of Africa, it's not just about the destination account being a bank account. It can be any type of account. It can be an M-Pesa account. It can be a mobile wallet of some sort. It can be cashed out at an agent banking location because of the uniqueness of Africa. So we have made sure that our solutions are adapted to our environment. And these are things that are really important. The future that we see is a future where somewhere in my home or somewhere in my village, I'm selling Ankara or I'm selling gold, and somebody else in Kenya, in a town in Kilifi, can place an order and make a payment in his local currency, and I can receive value in my local currency. And we think that we have done the very first steps of doing this, and we hope that it will continue to expand as we go forward.
Thank you, Mr. Adekunle, and congratulations to your team for the great work they're doing in improving the digital payment system across the continent. Now, Rabinta, as we begin to wind things down, what role do you think data analytics and artificial intelligence play in Interswitch's efforts to improve cross-border payment services? How do you leverage technology, and what benefits can these bring to both consumers and businesses? Data analytics and artificial intelligence.
Thank you for that question. As you all know, we cannot overemphasize the importance of data. I like to say data is the new oil. And reason being that with the wave of cloud computing, Internet of Things, and what we like to call the fourth industrial revolution, where you see a sort of fusion between your traditional digital world, your personal world, and even to your daily life. So what we see, data is continually becoming very important. It allows you innovate. It allows you provide intuitive solutions. It allows you do a lot of things that can sort of grow and fast track financial inclusion. So for us, really, data is important, and beyond data is security of data. I know Chidreke tried to, highlight and stress the importance of safeguarding your data. So as Interswitch, beyond just safeguarding our payment transactions or empowering or educating the public around how they safeguard their data, we also have solutions that speak to, data at rest. Beyond payment data, you want to also ensure that even if your data is perpetrated, the perpetrators have no use of that data. So we have solutions that transcend through payments, through data at rest, and we're also pushing shared versions of these solutions to fintechs, to microfinance banks that cannot probably want or do not want that initial capex, investment, so that they can leverage creating more revenues. Because when you start to create more intuitive products and solutions that are closely, meeting customers' needs.
Now, Larry, talking about financial inclusion, could you share specific examples of how mobile financial services have empowered unbanked and underbanked populations in remote or underserved regions to access cross-border payments?
Okay, I think the best response is up until 2001, for example, we only had about 2 million telephone lines in Nigeria, right? And then I think in 3 years, the first 3 years of GSM mobile telephony, we had 5 million lines in Nigeria. Today, we have more than 180 million active lines. And then if you clean the data, you'll see that maybe 110 million or so Nigerians have mobile phones. Now, one of the things you found is that mobile is maybe the biggest equalizer for Africa. Up until 2001, with the massive emergence of GSM, millions of Africans were excluded. And communication is just at the heart of many services. So the first thing is to say mobile has helped open up Africa, okay? As a technology, I'm not even talking about smart mobile or feature mobile. I'm just saying mobile. That's on one side. On the second side is internet penetration, right? I mean, we've made a lot of progress on the broadband penetration. We've made a lot of progress on the satellite interconnectivity. We've made a lot of progress with the connectivity being provided by the telcos. So what you'll find is that the twin combination of mobile telephony as well as internet penetration has allowed millions and millions of Nigerians and Africans to be included. That's on one side. But very much like was shared, I think, was by Dotun. One of the things we're seeing in Africa is that just with mobile penetration, we're able to offer a diverse range of banking services. Like I said, in Kenya today, more than 70 million of the total population is covered by M-Pesa. What that means is that it's not a function of if you have smartphones or not. By just providing you ability to do banking services, ability to have access to credit, ability to be onboarded and to have KYC, we're literally changing the fate of Africans, and that is mega. And so if you're asking in very simple terms, I would say mobile is maybe the biggest miracle in Africa. I mean, it's opened up many places where they are not structured, formal infrastructure like electricity, like telecommunication. With mobile, everything is possible. Now, my last thought is this. Up until 2015, I think, when we were talking about inclusion, is for you to have a bank account, okay? And that was big. But over the last 8 years or thereabout, you will find that there are many millions of Nigerians that are included today, but they are not banking with the traditional banking institution. I mean, early in the year, I think it was in March, OPay announced that they've crossed the 30 million mark. That is big. If you checked all around, even some of the biggest banks, only 2 or 3 banks in Nigeria have 30 million customers. So what you'll find is that with mobile telephony, there are many fintechs, many of them are in the room, and we thank you for being our partners. You'll find that they're able to offer best fit solutions, best fit services. The real last one I'm going to say. For me, maybe the biggest news about government adopting technology happened in 2011 during the administration of Goodluck Jonathan. There was an initiative by the then Minister of Agriculture, Additional, where the government was transferring subsidy to farmers. And from one initiative, this country registered 17 million farmers. Just think about it, okay? Farmers are usually the semi-literate or illiterate category. They are dispersed all around places where there are no formal roads, there are no formal communities.
Thank you very much, Larry. Now, Babatunde, as we wrap up this session and open up for Q&A, could you provide specific examples of how Interswitch's business development efforts have directly led to improvements and inclusion in Africa?
Okay, well, I think it's similar to what I said previously and what a lot of my colleagues have said. So what we try to do at Interswitch is provide the rails, right? Create a vision, put in the effort, the hard yards, and provide the rails, and then sort of invite partners in, right? And say, this is the ecosystem that we're trying to build, show them how we, the roles and parts that they can play in, and work with them on that journey to actualization for the good of, all of us, really, for the good of the industry, for the good of the continent as a whole. So that really is how, Interswitch has, played when you refer to what have been our efforts at national inclusion. So whether it be our mobile financial services offering, whether it be our Verve card, for instance, because we also have, Interswitch also has the Verve card, brand, and that card scheme is accepted across a number of African, countries. That's another way, once again, we're helping to, drive that inclusion, drive that, trade across, borders, because you can go with your Verve card to another, as a trader, to another, African country, take funds out of the ATM.
Even though you have, it's domiciled in Naira.
Yes, correct. Yeah. So it's accepted in a number of African countries. So that's one way as well. I mean, obviously, then there's the quick teller and quick teller for business.
Ladies and gentlemen, I believe this amazing panelists deserve. Ladies and gentlemen, I believe this amazing panelists deserve a rousing round of applause. Please, can we put our hands together for them? Would take a few questions before we break for lunch, but I just have some information to share with you. Please, after lunch, the program is not over. We still have a few presentations, and of course, the organizers have asked me to inform you that they appreciate your presence, and as a result of that, they have souvenirs and gifts to give to members. So much to gain. So we would like you to scan the QR code behind the program and give us feedback. Your feedback is very valuable to us. So just wanted to put that out. Thank you. Can we have the ushers move to the front area? We'll need your assistance with a microphone so you can ask. So please, if you want to ask a question, show your hand, stand up, introduce yourself, and let's know which member of the panelists of the panel session you're directing your question to. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much for the privilege. I'm Theophilus by name, and I'm from Properly. Properly is a prop tech startup. So my question is, more often, we've been seeing fintechs building products, shipping in new products and the likes. But I have a problem with most of the fintechs are based in the urban cities. Thereby, we have a larger gap, despite the numbers of fintechs in Nigeria that we have. There are some towns when you travel to remote places in Ekiti or Osun states, you see people that don't even know that fintech exists or don't have access to banking, either as a service or any banking privilege. How do fintech leverage on this to serve those underprivileged customers? Thank you very much.
First of all, let me make this point very clear. So, we're in a modern era. We're already in the fourth industrial revolution. So, it needs startup. We want to be everywhere in Nigeria. So, that era, that would be my point.
I'd like to add to that as well. Yes, fintechs are prevalent, or you see them more often in the urban areas, but we've seen that, especially in the first quarter of this year, we've seen tremendous growth in terms of mobile payment adoption, mobile wallets across Nigeria. Believe you me, as you go across Nigeria and look at the bottom of the pyramid, the smallest people, the likely unexpected people, you'll find out that they have an OPay account or they have a PalmPay account where they are able to do transactions and consummate whatever digital services that they want to consume at the base of the pyramid. And then you see they have over 6 million cards today. That was my former...
Converting the financial... as we speak today, I know SANEF reported 1.5 million agents. So really, for the job we have to do is to ensure that we have products that can get to the bottom of the pyramid. We have all the other stakeholders, the telcos that facilitate faster payments from communication standpoint, you know, the wallet agents to be able to reach the unbanked. So yes, it's work in progress.
Okay, I should go ahead. Okay, Larry. What? Okay, Larry, thank you very much. So, let me first make this point, okay? So, the financial industry in the whole world is the most regulated industry. So, if you pack that, you will understand that once the regulator coughs, we will usually scamper to hiding. There are things we can't do. So the central bank has said, for now, and I will say it's a matter of time. Yeah, so for now, banks in Nigeria are not allowed, even citizens of Nigeria, per se, are not allowed to pass crypto transactions through bank accounts. So for that reason, let's not discuss it. You understand? So that you don't put me in trouble, okay? Aha. So the second thing you asked about currency volatility, I would say it's a problem that has come to stay, and it's a problem that will not go away. Why is that the case? It is simple economics, right? Demand and supply of your currency determines. Let's not use the case of Nigeria because there are a lot more factors. So, but in a classical case, the demand and supply of your currency determines the strength of your currency or the stability of it thereof. To deal with currency fluctuation, usually in the banking industry, what we do is to hedge. My colleague spoke about it earlier. So you hedge between a range of values of plus and minus. and you're able to forecast with respect to time, and then you're able to fix the amount. That is what CBN, we heard about forward, right? That's also what CBN was doing when they were doing FMDQ. When they talk about forward, that's actually what they are talking about. So it's basically about hedging, right? So that is our own strategy when it comes to dealing with currency volatility. And as I said earlier, when you have a seamless platform that enables transactions to be consummated seamlessly at the point of initiation, then that time lag where you will suffer that exchange risk is minimized, right? So that is another solution to it. Then you talked about our collaboration with the MDAs, and I'll tell you, it's an ongoing conversation. And when we say we're talking about financial inclusions, regularly we interface with ministries, departments, and agencies of government. As I speak, government is talking about CCT, conditional cash transfer, and it's also going to be a vehicle to financial inclusions. So what some of us are doing is to see how we can leverage CCT, which is targeted at the lowest of the lows in the pyramid, right? To onboard those individuals, to include them financially. And that was why in my earlier submission, I spoke about mobile wallets. Many of those individuals, because of their status in the society, will not be able to provide you the regular KYC to onboard for accounts. But you can easily onboard them for Tier 1 wallets. And CBN allows that. So we are collaborating with many state governments, which I won't mention, and also the federal ministries to see how we can leverage conditional cash transfers to onboard as many more Nigerians as possible who today are financially excluded. I hope that helps.
Okay, thanks. Because you had also requested to ask from me. I would say your first question and the second are sort of interlinked. Because the first one is in terms of, which is essentially, it's just a DLT, distributed ledger, different from cryptocurrencies, right? There's a huge distinction. Cryptocurrency is just one of the many use cases for blockchain. Now, blockchain in itself is, there might seem to have been some confusion around what the regulatory standpoint for blockchain was. At one point in time, the NSE put out guidelines saying, you can't do this, that's a stock exchange, and then central banks seem to be saying something else. And then obviously they are aligned. Even central bank has had working committees talking about blockchain, again, distinguishing it from cryptocurrencies. I differ from your point. Blockchain technology is rather simple. It's just distributed. It's a distributed record relying on consensus versus a centralized version, that uses unilateral actions, if you get what I mean. So it's simple in that sense. And it's separate from crypto. The issue with crypto is governance and a bunch of other things, right? So now I'll use that to segue into your second question, which is you mentioned volatility. So when we were talking about volatility, currency volatility earlier, it was for fiat currencies. And stable coins won't essentially fix that, because stable currency is mirroring a fiat currency. It's very unlikely that a stable coin will be more stable than fiat. In fact, it's impossible. And especially when you look at some of the things, you mentioned USDT, you look at some of the things that's happened with USDT, especially around its governance. The principle is that every USDT is supposed to be backed by a dollar, but that's not the truth, right? Initially, the consortium had said, it was 80% that was backed, but then it emerges that it's even less than maybe 30%, right? So I don't think that's the solution. Perhaps what needs to happen is what we're beginning to see more. A lot of central banks are beginning to think about, what's the word now? Central bank.
CBDC.
CBDCs, thank you. So central bank digital currencies like the e-naira, stable coins, so to say, that trust and their ease with using cryptocurrencies or using cryptology to define currency will become easier. But we're not yet there. We can't go ahead of regulation in that matter, right? So we'll get there someday. And specifically, again, like I tied your last question to the first, which is we can't run ahead of regulation. We need to do what's within the banks. We need to, and we've done a lot of that work, which is separate the central bank's understanding of cryptocurrency from blockchain. So we can do blockchain initiatives, we can do things on blockchain, but stay away from crypto. Work with the central bank to enable things like the e-naira and all of that. So, yeah.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Olami. I'm the BDM for Ubank Connect. I have a question for Mr. Dotun Adekunle. My question is around your products, the two products you mentioned while you were presenting. You made mention of you guys distributing terminals for enterprises now. I also mentioned of Send at Flutterwave. The first question is around what is probably the value proposition that the fintech industry has over the traditional banking POS for enterprise businesses? That's the first question. Then the second question is around the Send platform, right? I understand the government introduced recently the IMF window rate, of cross-border payments. So how are you guys able to probably balance that? Thank you.
All right, deployment of terminals across the country to enable merchants to have payment acceptance devices across board. Yes, we're very committed to that. And this year alone, like I mentioned before, we have pushed out up to 50,000 terminals across board. The differentiator, of course, is that it serves both agency banking and merchant, pure merchant acceptance, and is backed up by several rails, so that there is redundancy across the transaction processing. Therefore, you can have higher uptime, so that people don't have those challenges that they typically have when you use a card on a terminal. Additionally, is that we have ways of managing disputes that are quite innovative, that allow the dispute to be recorded and captured if it occurs at the point of payment, so that the cardholder can be settled once there's a confirmation that the dispute is truly a dispute. And then we have terminals of different types that can also be used that are truly mobile. So that's what we call the Flutterwave Go, that can be hung on the neck, and you can use that to just move around. My vision for payments has always been that the day that I can pay or buy gala in traffic without me having to use my cash, I should be able to tap and pay and buy gala in traffic while the guy is on the move, and everything should happen seamlessly with trust. Then we can say we have true financial inclusion. That's the vision that is driving us as far as payments is concerned. For the second question around our Send product, it's something that after we launched, we saw a lot of traction immediately, and lots of people were able to start bringing money inwards, and that is still going and growing as we see. But I think that what you're referring to is another product that we launched called the Swap, which is a product that we launched in partnership with the CBN to basically allow people to purchase currency without having to go to the Malam by the streets to buy your dollar or USD. It's called Swap. And some weeks after we had launched that product and we had seen immediate adoption as well, we then saw that the CBN came up with a new guideline around bands of what the limits can be in terms of the spread that you can put on a dollar or an FX change, right? So that affected us. Initially, but we have seen that initially people reacted because we had to change things in terms of transaction pricing and things like that.
But she was meant to be on the panel, but Nigerian Airlines and traffic couldn't make her join. So please, let's give her a round of applause. It's the head of digital banking at First Bank of Nigeria. She's affectionately known as FFL. Thank you. Now, it's not just the mind that needs nourishment. It's almost 2 p.m. and I'm sure quite a lot of us have not even had breakfast. So our bodies too need nourishment. We'll break for lunch. It's an excellent time to relax and socialize with fellow attendees. While you're at it, explore more of Interswitch's capabilities through the captivating videos on display. Make new friends, network, and then we'll be back here for the second session. Remember that we have a lot of gifts for you and souvenirs, so please remain for the second session. Before we break for lunch, I would also like to acknowledge a few businesses and companies that are here with us today. I'd like to say a big thank you to UBA, Providus, Our Cash, Consolidated Hallmark Insurance, DLM Capital, FSDH, Premium Trust Bank, Parallax Bank, Signature Bank, Optimus Bank, Stanbic Bank, SunTrust Bank, VFD, FCMB, Flutterwave, Access Bank, Echo Bank, First Bank, Globus Bank, Heritage Bank, Jubilee, Life Mortgage Bank. Hands together for those brands present here. Being a borrower, it was a pleasure moderating this fantastic and powerful and all-important session on the theme. I do appreciate your time and contribution. Thank you. We'll break for lunch and then we'll be right back in about 20 plus minutes. Thank you. Good to see you. I will be. Oh.
I think that's all for now. We would be sending the award for First Bank. I think they mixed up the awards. Okay, I have new information that the award is here now. So we calling again the First Bank team, apologies, for Live Partner Award, First Bank.
Live Partner Award, First Bank. Please put your hands together for First Bank.
Thank you, everyone. Benga, you have the floor. So we'll be back for the next category.
Thank you very much, Robinta and Olubumi, for your assistance in the presentation of awards. We still have more awards to give, but we will do that after we break for presentation.
That's what I thought before I took the ride. I burned my bridges so I never look back. But if I had known the life I was searching for was looking me right in the eye, oh. If I had known the life I was searching for was already my own.
His presentation. Please, let's put our hands together for him as he makes his way to the stage. Thank you. You can do better. I know you've had lunch and it should give you some sugar and energy. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon, everyone. I hope you all are having a nice time and you've at least learned one or two and found one or two new, solutions that we have for you. Okay, as said, my name is Olawale. I represent the Mobile Financial Service Unit at Interswitch. What we do is generally build mobile banking applications as well as solutions that help the financial institutions and non-financial institutions to service their customers. So I will be taking you through some innovative solution we've developed and make that available for you. But before I do that, I want to just take us through a brief insight. Today, as we all know, mobile banking application is an in-thing in the industry today. Practically every organization that at least interacts with customers should have an application which they can present to their customers and be able to interact with their customers, provide them solutions. So based on these, Interswitch acquired an institution known as Vanso. Vanso was the leading providers of mobile banking applications in the industry. So from 2016, we acquired Vanso, and after that, we made mobile banking applications to the lead commercial banks that we all know in this industry in Nigeria. And subsequently, we went further to expand that coverage to other banking institutions. But along the way, we felt that there is a market which we have not taken care of, and those are the MFBs. And MFBs, as you know, are categorized into the we have the unit MFBs and the rest. So we felt there's also need to provide this solution to the unit MFB. So we we developed an internet solution known as mobile banking as a service that can be available to MFBs and unit MFBs, so they in turn can play in this environment. So what the mobile banking as a service is all about is mailing a multi-tenancy application. Probably I just used the big word, but a multi-tenancy application is more of an application that you just come in on board, multiple tenants, multiple institutions are on the platform for customers. So what this solution provides you is the ease of quickly getting to the market. Within a period of 3 weeks, 4 weeks, your customer can have an application which they can be banking with. And it saves you the cost of infrastructure application, and the platform is available for your use. It reduces that overhead cost of maintenance, because our staff will be everly available to be able to provide support when your customer requires any, and be able to provide you the necessary knowledge that you require to be able to support your customer. So it's almost like a ready to have a banking application. Imagine building an application or having an application within 1 month, and you'll be able to do all basic banking activity. You want to be able to do transfer bank have as a product. So you can see it has unique interface. So what you just need is to onboard on this platform, and it's ready for your use as quickly as possible. Like I mentioned, so these services are current services that are available on the platform. Customer onboarding, you want to be able to onboard new customers, registration, existing customers, quickly as possible. You can have them on the platform. Airtime, BIS payment, transfers, these are all solutions that exist. There are still more solutions that are being developed behind that will eventually come alive in no distant time. So yes, we are here and readily available to be able to provide you this solution, to work with you, to hear more of your questions, more of your pain. And I also need to mention that also builds such for you. I need to as well mention that in the unit, we also build
in technology and had capability to issue cards. So that capability was what we now extended to partners like the current trends that we now see. Permit me to just look backward. At the moment, it's contactless payments. So you are all aware of the CBN guideline of contactless payments. So you don't necessarily need to insert your cards to make payments. You can tap your card on POS terminals to make payments. And apart from even using cards, there's also the other payments tokens that you can use when you tokenize the cards on wearables like watches, or you tokenize them on mobile apps, and you're using your phone to do contactless payments. So that's pretty much about contactless payments, and it's kind of trending. The instant card solution is also trending, instant card issuance. You can bear me witness that before now, when you make requests for cards, it takes 3 to 5 working days at least within Lagos, and then outside Lagos, it takes to 1 week or 2 weeks before cards are issued. At the moment, there are solutions that enable you go inside the banking hall, and you're able to get the cards in less than 15 minutes. That's instant card solution, and it's kind of trending at the moment. There's also the AfriGo cards that has been pushed by CBN, even though it's still in the works and it's part of the trends that we're seeing. Then issuance of cards via the e-Naira that CBN has also mandated. So there, you can get cards off the e-Naira. And also, we can't overemphasize partnerships and collaborations. At the moment, we have fintechs that kind of carry out transactions that traditionally is only banks that do those kind of transactions, like debits and credit. And those fintechs now issue cards. So there is opportunity for partnership between banks and those fintechs to enable them issue cards. So what do we see as the future of cards? The first one that I will be talking about is the digital banks or the neobanks. Before now, you must visit a bank branch to open an account, and then you visit the bank branch to do transactions. But at the moment, you don't necessarily need to visit the bank branch. There are neobanks, like we call them, or digital banks that once you download their app, you are able to open an account online, on the go. You don't even need to know where those branches are. And there are typical examples, the likes of OPay, the likes of PalmPay. And that's the trend we're seeing. And we're expecting those trends will continue to grow. So more and more, we'll continue to see either they are issuing you physical cards that are being delivered to your home, or you are getting a virtual cards on the go. So that's part of the future that we're seeing, and it's going to continue to grow. I've also mentioned contactless payments. So contactless payments has come to stay, and we'll continue to see growth in that space. And thanks to CBN's guideline on contactless policy, so it means that we'll continue to see growth in the space of contactless payments. My colleague earlier mentioned about the fraudulent transactions and solutions that Interswitch are providing to enable you curb those fraudulent transactions. So we'll continue to see a growth in security measures, and those security measures are to protect card-based transactions or other digital transactions. So it will continue to grow because of security measures. But then we're also, in the nearest future, there might be an integration to cryptocurrency for card issuance. Remember that before now, nobody thought that the fintech space will be able to issue out cards. So fintech came up with wallets, and we're able to provide a solution for them to issue cards. We're also hoping that with the backing from regulation, in the nearest future, there could be an integration with cryptocurrency wallets, and we'll be able to issue cards in those space. So having said that, what opportunities do we have in Interswitch to enable you adapt and scale your business? There are lots and lots of opportunities, but we have solutions to cater for those opportunities to enable you scale your business. So one of them is the virtual card solution. Remember, I talked about the neobanks. So that's what they're using to make they kind of use it to improve customer experience for their card holders. So virtual card solution is one of the solutions Interswitch has, and in the event that you have not partnered with us on that, you can partner with us. So virtual card simply means we're providing you with a card, but it's not physical card. It can be on your mobile wallet, or it can be on the website, depending on what the partner chooses to. And at the moment, at the point of start transacting, rather than opening your account and then waiting for 3 to 5 working days to get a physical card. Next on the item is Interswitch tokenization. So what tokenization does is actually provides you with capability to protect your card PAN, because tokenization is simply converting the card PAN to a unique token, and it does that to give 2 major values. So it does that to protect your card transactions on online websites. So in the event that you have your cards hosted on the likes of Netflix, Amazon, or Jumia, with tokenization, you're able to protect that card PAN in the event of fraud. The other part of tokenization is it enables the wearable or your mobile device to become a card-like device. So if you tokenize your card on mobile, which is your phone, you are able to carry out tap and pay transaction, because that phone becomes an EMV-enabled device that will perform a transaction like a card. And if you also tokenize your card on your wearable, which is the likes of the smartwatches, you're able to carry out transaction with those smartwatches. Then fintech card issuance, so solution that we tagged fintech card issuance. So basically the traditional bank cards that we have available. I also talked about the instant card issuance that we're seeing trending. So Card Fusion is Interswitch's instant card solution. With Card Fusion, you are able to issue out cards instantly in less than 15 minutes. So just like I had mentioned, we also have a solution to cater for the instant card that is trending at the moment. Then for credit card and prepaid card, I don't know, some of you would have seen a publication around the launch of Sterling Bank's Verve credit card. It's in partnership with Interswitch. We've revamped our credit card and prepaid card solution with a partnership with C+, providing Transaxi solution, and you can tap into it. It's either you're issuing Verve credit cards, or you're issuing Master credit cards, or you're issuing Visa credit cards. I think that's about my presentation. I'll pause and take questions if there are any.
Thank you very much, Kelechi. Ladies and gentlemen, do we have any questions for Kelechi with regards to his presentation? Let me see your hands if you have any questions for him. Okay, in that case, let's put our hands together for Kelechi Nkwocha, Business Development Third-Party Processing at Interswitch. Thanks for your presentation. We'll take a few moments break and then we'll get to the concluding part of today's event. It's been quite a remarkable one, I must say. We'll be right back shortly. Thank you. So would appreciate if you can scan and let us know your thoughts about our sessions, your feedback.
Thanks, Robinta. The first award for the FinTech category goes to the outstanding performer in MoneyPoint Incorporated. MoneyPoint Incorporated.
Yes, please.
The next award for outstanding performance goes to OPay Digital Services.
OPay Digital Services.
I understand OPay is not here. Suliat will be taking the award on their behalf.
Do we have a Ruscom? Now, so you can pick up the award. Oh, okay, this number. Okay, that's it. Now, so there's someone coming. You can still come. Come together. Come. We'll be going to the next category for the microfinance banks. Okay.
The microfinance bank with the outstanding performance is ASEAN MFB. Any representatives for ASEAN MFB? Yeah.
And next on that line for outstanding performance is VFD Microfinance Bank. VFD Microfinance Bank. Just a round of applause for them.
VFD Microfinance Bank. Please give them a round of applause. Thank you.
One more outstanding performer, United Mortgage. Any representative from United Mortgage? I think that's all. We'd like to appreciate everyone here. Everybody here is a performer. As long as you're in this room, you've been enlightened. We've had different interactions. Some are our customers. Some are
very much. Ladies and gentlemen, please let's put our hands together for the wonderful organizers of this beautiful event. And that brings TechConnect 3.0 to a close. The event may have closed, but the journey continues beyond these walls. Thank you. Bye-bye. Thank you. Bye-bye.